Hey guys, per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. So I've been at consensus for the past week, kind of lost my voice. Hopefully the audio isn't complete trash. Let's talk about BTC and ETH. We'll start with a few fundamental analyses and then move on to a bunch of charts. So the bottom line for both Bitcoin and Ethereum, transactions are certainly down from where they were December, January. And they're basically flat to declining currently, so that's not bullish, I guess. You can say, well, there's SegWit, there's batching, there's off-chain, whatever. I can't really measure that very well. So on balance, just what this is showing, it's not jumping up saying, there's a giant inflection point where a bunch of people are transacting again. Here is NVT. All you need to know really is if this is rising, you should be not buying. And again, we're talking about inflection points. So Ethereum is approaching levels it wasn't since January. And Bitcoin is approaching almost levels it's never seen before. This is on log. Linear looks a little different. You can see ETH started, basically it was saying it's super overvalued. People started using it, ICOs, mania, July, 2017-ish. Bitcoin's essentially been pretty steady throughout its life. If this goes higher, that says that the number of transactions doesn't support the current price, as in the value is not supported by the utility. That's how I would read and remember that metric. Again, this doesn't measure off-chain stuff, and we're getting more and more off-chain, so maybe this never ever gets, this low again. I don't know. That's just something to consider. All right, whatever. Let's go to charts. So I got ETH, I got corn on the right, and you'll see a lot of Bitcoin charts, not too many ETH charts. When I don't know what the hell's going on, I usually just look at as many things as I possibly can. And that's kind of the case with Bitcoin right now. You just got to cast a wide net. You want an N of 40 instead of N of 20 without getting into analysis paralysis. So this is just open interest on margin for Bitfinex. You can see that with ETH, it is net long, Bitcoin as well. Net long, it's much more net long on ETH. On Bitcoin, I think, depending on how I divided these. Basically, I divided these so that they fit the window. But the point is, they're net long. Shorts aren't rising. Shorts are rising-ish on ETH. Shorts are falling on Bitcoin. You can see we're trending declining sense there. Again, I don't know what this means other than let's just look at a bunch of stuff, see what happens. So there's that. Doesn't really tell me much. It would be better to see, shorts at all-time high and longs at a local low, for instance. Then I'd be saying, okay, we're looking for a short squeeze. Like we were here when shorts were literally at an all-time high. Longs were very near all-time high. But you can see shorts building, and then we get a pop, and there that goes. Either that's shorts covering or shorts closing. That's basically the same thing, but it doesn't matter in this metric. All right, so that's open interest. EMA's pretty straightforward with ETH. We're still in the bullish golden cross. Volume's basically been flat since December. We haven't really seen, day over day, it's kind of like lower, but at the same time, we're getting these spikes. On Bitfinex, I don't know if this is EOS selling or what, honestly. I didn't check the other exchanges, but if you exclude these days, you can see we're definitely declining. So maybe this is EOS or whoever, some ICO, I don't know. For Bitcoin, it's definitely a murkier picture. The volume's more straightforward, though. The volumes are definitely declining. That tells me there should be something up here that shows consolidation, a chart pattern, anything. If we exclude these high volume days, 1, 2, 3, these high selling volume days, then you could say maybe inverted head and shoulders. I'll get to that with the ETH charts later, but here also very loosely, none of this is perfect. I'm sort of just using my internal pattern algo recognition system and saying what may fit here. If we go shoulder, head, shoulder, again, that's not ideal or typical or what you want to see, but I'm just trying to think, what do I see here just on a naked chart on the daily. You can see the EMAs are real messy. We had the bear cross, basically almost nothing on the bull cross, and then a re-bear cross. So we're back in death cross mode, back under the 200. Litmus test just says we're bearish based on that. So that's those things. Now, what everybody's wondering, are we still going to hit 33K by July? So the entire premise of that was based on diagonal lines, which are slope or rate of change of the trend since 2017. What is TA? TA uses past price history to try to predict the future. So that's what we're trying to do here. The typical pitchfork is the yellow. Typically you see a tighter trend, if you will, and with Bitcoin on the daily, it exploded up, it came back in, consolidated, bounced around, found resistance. To me, what I'm seeing here, all these diagonals are showing support or resistance to the extent that I believe the pitchfork was real and valid. You can see we're a couple days out of the pitchfork now. Pretty safe to say invalid. No, we're not going to hit 33K based on this metric in July. If and when we do recover, it's probably going to be 28K-ish just based on fibs. High, low, do these levels make sense? It broke here, good. It denied. Yeah, denied. Okay, these fibs look real. If you're deciding, do I measure here? Do I measure here? Do whatever you want. I don't care. Maybe you measure here to here. You do you, brah. This is what I'm looking at. 28K. There's some evidence for Wyckoff type stuff with accumulation here or distribution. I'm not a Wyckoff guy, so just throwing that out there. If we look at the down pitchforks, I'm looking at two specifically, this one and this one. I'm not adding anything extra here because there was extra up here. I'm not adding, so I added a wing here. It doesn't make any sense to add a wing when there isn't a wing on the other side with price. That's like the most basic way I can explain that. So you can see it broke, it invalidated very momentously with momentum. Okay, that's what you want to see. A clean break, clean signals, and then we're back in it again. So we may go here to the median line, but if you're bullish, what you want to see is a break of this diag on volume. I've seen people talking about this volume not being high relatively, so that may suggest this is a fake out, but at this point I can't just hope that it's gonna happen and it's gonna come back. Depending on if your margin, you're probably closing here. If your margin long, that is, if you're in spot, you're probably moving to cash here. If you are, in futures, you might be short here. Those are just ways to play this based on what I'm seeing at the moment. Let's look at a few other things. So let's go weekly cloud, no man's land. Again, pseudo inverted head and shoulders. It probably won't happen that way, but just something I'm looking at. You can very clearly see volume decline there. We haven't yet had a bearish TK cross. That would say if you're long from down here, you would be closing. You can see that would be pretty late in the game as far as signals are concerned. And again, the yearly pivot's all the way up here. So not really much you can glean from the weekly. 3-day tells me the average is all the way up here for the mean. Again, all this is hopium based on the cloud, but thin cloud, so potential for busting up here. I'm just sort of freeballing it because there's not really much to go off of. Obviously bearish. If this was a definitive bear trend, what you want to see is something like this, where the TK lines are relatively close, and you're just getting momentum on every bounce off the lines. Okay, so you're not really seeing any of that here. It's just sort of meandering sideways. Kijun bounce, Tenkan bounce, whatever, but to the bearish side. You saw it here, but we weren't below the cloud yet. 2-day, again, not really seeing anything. We're below the cloud. Yeah, it's bearish. No real comments on cloud. Nothing really to say. It's breaking the Tenkan. It never reached the Kijun. It's just a giant mess. And it's even more of a mess on the daily. Now, we had several windows of opportunity for reversal. We had this head and shoulders inverted very clearly, in my mind, volume notwithstanding, and didn't happen. Broke down. That's fine. We had this Adam Eve, never really completed, broke down. Now for the third attempt, we have this edge-to-edge trade, and as always, edge-to-edge trades are stopped out when the cloud and or Kijun is breached. In this example, is pretty clear. Both were breached on the same day, which was yesterday on the daily close here. So if you're long based on the E to E, the cloud is telling you to close. Again, not investment advice. Just telling you what the cloud says. Doesn't say short here, although you could based on the Kumo breakout, similar to here. We sort of consolidated in this zone, and then we finally had momentum. Again, but this was messy. You don't want to see that. Well, time will tell how this will pan out, but I'm guessing we're going to see some sort of consolidation. If you get the bearish TK cross below cloud, obviously that's sell everything you have, sell that ledger. Again, not investment advice, just what the cloud is telling you. And that would be the first bearish TK cross below the cloud since this point here, and you can see how that was very predictive as far as bearish momentum. And again, E to E, what you want to see is price entering at the bottom and reaching for the other side. This may take days, it may take months in this case. Okay, this is a weekly. It took forever. It doesn't always happen quickly. You might not be patient enough to be trading, just remember that. These things don't happen overnight. Not everything's an instant 10x. I just say that because a lot of people don't understand that. This took a long time. It was active for a long time. There were other things going on here, but the E to E was there the whole time. Not saying that's the case now with Bitcoin, but just keep that in mind. Okay, I've never talked about volume profile, volume range. It's pretty subjective, mainly because you can move it the days. Basically, the data set you can move around, which makes it really subjective. So what it is, as opposed to volume per day, it's volume at price. So you can see at this price what the buying and selling was for the range. Based on the days selected, it's at the breakpoint, essentially, is how I would read this. It's breaking below the support, is how I would read this. If you know more about this, just feel free to chime in the comments. But again, this is not a bullish sign. I'm trying to add up all the evidence and put it in a bull or bear box and then make a hypothesis. Not bullish here. Then we got some other triangle business somebody pointed out on Twitter. So much like a tax return, you can either be aggressive or conservative with your diagonal lines. They both kind of make sense depending on where you draw them. So this is the first version. We very clearly broke down from this point. So this, in my mind, is clear-cut the top line of the triangle, okay? You can either draw this bottom one from here or from here. I have that on the next chart. But what you want to see with triangles in general is price breaking the range beyond 2/3 full of the triangle. So let me say it again a different way. This stuff will consolidate until it reaches 2/3 full. Then it has a higher chance of actually breaking the range. And what some people have pointed out is this sort of matches a potential Kumo twist. Again, this is hopium way down the line. So this would probably be July-ish, where we would be looking for this to happen on the cloud. And then maximum would be August 10th. It's cut off. You can't see that. But that's just sort of a range. And obviously we can do whatever we want before then. But if we're looking at cloud specifically and what it's trying to tell me, that's what I'm looking at. This one might make more sense because it includes the entire bottom range better. I don't know. So 2/3 full would be 6.9 to 8:10 again. It was actually the same days. Pretty close. So, June. We're looking at June to August as far as a chance at doing something here. The fact that all this is volume just is consolidating to nothing tells me that this might actually be real. We are ranging, a bunch of patterns keep failing at these diags, so we'll see. Another thing, if I'm looking at Alligator, so Alligator is just 3 EMAs, and if I add fractal to that, those are just horizontal levels where you either buy or sell. When the Alligator is fully bullish, you're in bull mode, you're buying anytime we break horizontal. So this would be a buy, this would be a buy, and that would be a buy. And when it breaks the bear fractal, then you'd close that trade. This may or may not have worked out well. Ideally, you're using the same order size each time. So if we take that principle, port it over to now, you can see we closed below the bear fractal printed a few days ago, and Alligator's bearish. So again, this tells us we shouldn't be long. We should want what the market wants. The market wants to be bear mode. We should listen. If we're completely emotionless traders, that's what we're doing. Here's 12-hour, just written out a different way, explaining, inverted head and shoulders, Adam Eve, messy, questionable. Now, I saw CRN post this on Twitter, potential falling wedge, sort of to the bottom of the bigger triangle. Again, I don't really know what's going on, just trying to take a 1,000-foot view and look at everything here. So it's pretty much Bitcoin. Bunch of stuff, no clue what's really happening, other than leaning heavily bearish. So Ethereum 3-day, like I said earlier, inverted head and shoulders possible. Volume isn't really there. Nothing really stands out to me here as far as what might be going on. Obviously the consolidation constriction here, and it pulled back all the way after reaching its measured move. So I think it's still got time to decide what's going on. You could argue pennant here, or flag, whatever you want to call it. But again, volume isn't really there. This would be a bearish continuation. So you'd be looking at back to all-time high zone. I think this makes a little more sense. This is a 12-hour. It's a little messy, but there's an argument for a cup and handle here that hasn't completed yet. Still forming. There's an argument for a head and shoulders here, which is basically at the neckline, and targets for that are anywhere between 530 to, what are we looking at here? Like 530, 555, I think. So if you're on spot, if it were me on spot, I'd be buying, like DCAing with a big pot, anywhere below 612 to 535, sort of buying in here. This yellow line just is in my mind where the trajectory could be. And then this is the cup and handle resolution. You can see that these zones sort of match previous rejection areas, order blocks, whatever. VPVR would probably show heavy volume in this zone. So we'll see. I'm not bullish on Ethereum right now, that's for sure, but I'm not. I may or may not be short, but I will be buying anything between 535 and 612. Not hoping, but expecting basically all-time highs this year, or a test of all-time high. 12-hour cloud, again, doesn't really show you much, just kind of blasé, like the 3-day. Strictly speaking, the signals are bullish, but leaning towards closing your long as we get this TK cross, and basically pointing towards 600 as like a bounce point. Not much else to say on that one. And the daily cloud, again, you can see it's trying to complete its edge-to-edge. This, again, like the weekly Bitcoin, it's not always straightforward. Sometimes it takes a ton of time to actually get there, or it gets there after it recovers, like through a Kumo twist or something. You see that on alts a lot. But again, that support, giant support at 600 basically. So if you're long on this ETE, your stop would be really be below the cloud. That's up to you, depending on your leverage and risk appetite. Another thing I want to show, this is best case scenario on 12-hour. You're hoping for this every time when you see the edge-to-edge trigger. We get this pennant thing, and we get higher highs, and boom, we're off to the races, right to that target. Pretty straightforward. Obviously, doesn't always happen. And then lastly, ETHBTC. This has been shown by lots of people, but it's kind of just in its range zone here. Didn't really reach the bottom, didn't really reach the middle yet. It is what it is, but we'll see if it ever flippins, quote unquote. I wouldn't really count on it, but I'm not pro ETH anyway. And then daily cloud. Cloud isn't bullish yet, so that would be what you really want to push all your chips in from a cloud perspective. But everything else is bullish. We're above cloud, TK is bullish, lagging span's bullish. It's kind of riding that cloud support at the moment. So that's all I have for now. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Hit me up on Twitter, and happy trading.